Hello, everybody. Welcome to Coffee Time with Byron. I am your host, Byron. This is episode number 93. We are available on YouTube right now, streaming live. Also available next day on all podcasting apps. Also now available on Amazon Music. If you have it, it's free to subscribe. So give it a follow, whatever you got to do. Apple, Google, Spotify, you name it, all them podcasting apps the next day. But alongside me is former MLB pitcher Darrell May. Thank you for joining us. How are you tonight?
Doing good, Byron. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. I thought I lost you there for a second with you know what is something forgot. I even forgot myself. It was the time change a little bit there.
Yeah. I didn't even pay attention. I know you texted me this morning, and it was like 7 a.m. I'm like, oh, he's texting me really early. I'm like, oh, he's just an early riser. That's all. But I didn't even think about the fact that you're an hour ahead. But here we are.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. You're Central Time, right?
Yeah.
That's what I thought. Yeah, so it's all good. Hey, as long as we got it, we're here, so we're good.
Yeah.
So I actually want to begin. You played. I'm sure you were in the minors. You didn't make your debut until '95, but you were probably in the minors when the strike happened. There was a strike just recently, and luckily they were able to get their heads together and get it fixed, so there'd be a season. What was that like for you? Because you obviously had to be in the minors. So what was that like for you dealing with the strike, even though you weren't in the majors just yet?
It was crazy here. I wasn't really, honestly, I wasn't paying that much attention to it because I didn't think it would affect me directly, right? We're home. It's the off season. I'm getting ready like I normally would to get ready for spring training. All of a sudden, I'm packing my car, thinking I'm leaving in a few days. I've got family in California, Arizona, and I'm going to drive out to Florida from Oregon where I live, and get a phone call. It's Tom Glavine, our player rep, and basically saying, "Hey, we're not going." And I'm like, "Wait a second. Why does that affect me?" Well, go to find out, it was my first year being on the 40-man roster. So the team had protected me on the 40-man roster. Because I was on the 40-man roster, that means that I had to sit out on strike because in order to get to the big leagues, you have to get to the 25-player roster. You have to be on the 40-man roster. So everybody on the 40-man roster had to sit out. And so that was news to me right then and there. And I was like, oh, wow. So unpack my car, go back to work, go back to working out and throwing and keeping busy, and a lot of team phone calls, and then back and forth about that. And then Don Fear was the head of our union at the time. They had meetings on the East Coast and on the West Coast. They flew everybody down, or on the West Coast went to LA. We had a big meeting in the middle of what was going on when they were going to do the replacement players. And at that point, it was a little scary. It was like, if that works, I mean, does that mean I'm out of a job? Or the other side of it was, I was worried about, are they going to ask me to cross because I'm a younger guy, thinking that they might be able to entice me with a little money to cross. Yeah. So yeah, it was a little scarier than I had thought it was going to be at first, but obviously it worked out in the end.
Now, obviously that one lasted longer than this one, right? That season only went up to what, the World Series, I believe.
And then there was no World Series that year for into '94, and then the strike was that off season through part of '95.
Crazy when you think about it, huh?
Yeah.
Jeez. And plus, you, like you said, you had no idea what was going on. You were just a minor leaguer who trying to get ready for spring, and then boom. And then you get that, can't make it, or we're in strike. Oh, I was like, that had to be horrible for you. I mean, you want to make the roster, and then bam, this happens.
Well, yeah. Plus, it's really 40-man roster. You get to go to big league spring training camp. I was super excited about that.
Yeah.
And I understood. Okay, if they're on strike, that's not going to happen. I'll go to minor league camp at least. I'll be playing baseball. But then, when Tom Glavine had said, no, guys on the 40-man are not going as well, because there was a few of us that didn't understand exactly how that worked. And we were crushed. I was crushed. I had to miss that. And then it was like, when it did end, like they wanted us there the next day. And I'll never forget, it was like me and I think Jason Schmidt, who lived it was from Washington, was both with the Braves. We, wanted to have our cars with us in case we went to the minor leagues or wherever we were going. So we drove it, and they gave us 2 days to get out there, and that was craziest, trying to get from West Coast all the way down to Southern Florida to start spring training in 2 days and get things going.
Now, I don't get the whole point of spring training. I mean, I get that it's like preseason and I get that, but what honestly, I mean, you're training, you already know who you got from the minors, you see who you get in the minors teams do. Why what is the point in spring? They don't let their starters go until like the full like last week of spring training, then they let them play the full week. Wouldn't you just rather, if you're going to do preseason like the other leagues do, wouldn't you rather just like do a week and let the players play all those games fully? I know you want to see some minors, but don't you already see them from seasons prior and all throughout the whole minor leagues? That's why you call them up, correct? So what's the point in spring training to go that long?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it could be a little shorter, but I think your starting pitchers need to build up your pitch count. Hitters need to see live hitting, depending on where guys are, in the off season in the country. Some people are from colder climates. They're not able to get out and hit off live pitching. It's, in cages, or timing's just not there. So it allows guys to get timing and get your body healthy. I mean, most guys are coming in fully ready to go, but there's still a building process. It still takes some time to get going and to get ready. And then of course, as a manager, I'm sure you want to see how, if you brought in new guys, nowadays when guys are changing, organizations more often, you want to see how they gel, how they fit in, how that's going to look. So I think there's a little bit on both sides as far as a need to have spring training and have it a little bit, a little more time to get ready.
Now it's been a wild and crazy March after they decided to actually come back and with all these deals and stuff. It's been absolutely insane with all these. Now, do you remember a time when you were playing either minor league or pro in the majors? Do you ever remember an off season this crazy like it's been with all these massive signings and all these weird trades, et cetera, et cetera? Do you remember an off season like this? Like this
No,
one?
no, this one takes the cake. I think there's been a lot going on, a lot of movement. Um, more than normal. It seems like, and it was interesting because a lot of it was coming down the barrel when you knew the strike was coming. So
Right. Yeah.
guys were trying to get signed, either before, or maybe they were trying to get, teams were pressuring, trying to get them signed before, saying, hey, there's going to be a chance of it, strike. Let's get you locked up beforehand. And guys not doing it. And then as soon as the strike breaks, or the lockout, I should say, breaks, you got a lot of guys that are looking for a job, and a lot came quick. It seemed like it was very quickly that it happened, which is good. Guys signed and were able to get to where they needed to go quickly.
Now you was obviously, like you said before we got on camera, you were primarily a starter pitcher. Now every pitcher has their routine before they pitch or go to pitch. What was your routine to get you going, get you pumped up to playing for your starter or whatever?
Well, I always like to say there's something wrong with you if you need to get pumped up to pitch in a major league game in front of 40, 50,000 people, how many ever there are. It doesn't take much to get motivated. I mean, especially I was a kid dreaming of it. So every opportunity was just a blessing, just to be able to be out there and pitch in front of a crowd like that and face the best hitters in baseball. So it really didn't take much, but my routine was, pretty much the day I was starting, it was you get there early, you hang out in the locker room, you hang out in your locker, nobody really messes with you. Depending on what, at that time, if it was an American League or National League team, you might have to go out and take batting practice. And then 30 minutes before the game, I would go out on the field and do my stretching, do my long toss, and then hit the bullpen and take me about 10, 15 minutes in the bullpen, and I was ready to go.
Now, you made your debut in '95 with the Braves. What do you remember that experience? Who gave you the call up, and who was all your family down there with you for that call up?
No, so my first call up, it was interesting. I was in AAA. I got called up to AAA about a month prior, and Grady Little was my manager. And Grady was known as one of these guys. I didn't really know Grady at this point, but he was known as one of these guys that he either liked you or he didn't. And it was hard to tell. It was really hard to tell where you stood with him. And my first couple of outings were a little rocky. I remember when I got to AAA, and then I kind of got my feet under me and hit the ground running and was doing really well. And then we were playing, it was in Richmond, Virginia. We were playing in Norfolk, Virginia. It was really close, less than 2-hour drive. And I believe they let some players that, especially the married guys, they could drive over and drive back for that one. But there was a bus, and, I was a single guy and took the bus over, had no idea where I was going. I'll never forget. I pitched that day, and I had a no hitter going. We ended up getting rained out after 5 innings, and it was a long rain delay. Then he took me out. Game continued on. And after the game, right after the game, he was looking at me, goes, "Hey, you taking the bus back, or you driving?" I'm like, "Taking the bus back." He's like, "Don't be late." I'm like, I was like upset. I'm like, why is he saying that? I kind of prided myself on not being late, being early for everything. And so I was like, gosh, does Grady just not like me? And go to find out, as soon as we got back, it was so he could call me in his office to tell me, hey, you're getting called up to the big leagues. I believe it was Kent Merker he'd had some back issues that year, and he kind of strained his back. And so he, was the fifth starter, I believe, fourth, fifth starter at that time. And they brought me up to be there. So while he was injured, and it just happened to be that it was already past September. So first September call up. So, they just added me to the roster.
Now, did you have a chance to pitch for the Braves when they were in their peak, going for those World Series titles in those championship years? Did you get to pitch for them at all during that time?
My 95 was the only time I was in the big leagues with them. I got that call up, stayed there the rest of the season. And then the team went to the first round of the playoffs in Colorado. And right after that, they sent me to Venezuela. So I went to Venezuela and pitched down there for that part of that winter, and then Arizona Fall League. So no, to answer your question, nope, I didn't. And then coming next year into spring training, I finished spring training with the Braves. They were sending me back to AAA. I was out of options, and they lost me to the Braves, or to the Pirates. The Pirates picked me up.
So yeah, I see that you didn't go to the Pirates. What was that experience like in that year that you spent with them? Because did you even get called up, or did you get the chance to pitch for them?
I did. So they sent me to AAA at first, which was Calgary. Miserably cold. We actually started our season in Tucson, Arizona, because there was like 3 or 4 feet of snow on our field in Calgary. Then things warmed up, and we went back up there, and about a month and a half or so into that season, I can't remember exactly when, I got called up and pitched a few games with the Pirates. Did not do well at all. Got sent back down, and they put me on waivers, and I got picked up by the Angels. So I actually finished that season in the big leagues with the Angels.
Now, speaking of, that's your next team, the Angels, before they became Anaheim. What year was the Cal Ripken game? Were you in that game, or was that the year after you had left? Because I see you were with the Angels in 96 and 97. So was that the year before you left or after?
I think it was the year before I got there is when that happened. Yeah, I remember a friend of mine on the team with the Angels was talking about how cool it was to be there for that and get to be a part of that.
So after that, then you make your debut. I believe it is from what I'm seeing here. You make your debut with the Hanshin Tigers, and you spend about 2 years there playing for them. And you stay there in Japan for a total of 4 years, 2000, 2001 as well. Tell us
Yeah.
about that experience in playing in Japan. And is baseball the same, or is it a little bit different than what it is here in the U.S.?
Oh man. First, I reluctantly went there. I was not interested in playing baseball in Japan.
Mm,
I was with the Angels. Was told I was going to be the fifth starter. They had signed a few guys to guaranteed contracts that kind of made me the 26th guy on a 25-man roster.
mm,
Terry Collins was our manager at the time, and Bill DeVasey, the GM, and they were awesome. They called me and said, "Look, this is a situation. You're the 26th guy on a 25-man roster. We know you're out of options. We're gonna try to sneak you through at the end, but there's this Japanese team that's been interested in you for a few years." And they have been honest to see if we, would sell your rights to go over there. But, we want to see what your thoughts are first on it.
mm.
And initially I was like, no, I had no interest in it. It was in spring training. My agent happened to be in town. He's like, let's just listen to what they have to say. So we met with them and talked with them, and they were nice and everything. But still, I was kind of reluctant to it. But honestly, at that point, used to be that guys used to go over at the end of their career, one last hurrah. Maybe they were make some really good money and play over there for one last year. Well, Japanese had kind of gotten smart because guys were going over there and being lazy and not really caring because it was a guaranteed contract. And, I'm sure it's not everybody, but that's at least the stories I heard when I was over there. So
Right.
they got smart and they started going after the guys that were borderline AAA big league guys, or guys that they can entice the big league team to sell their rights to. And I fit that mold for them. So they got the Angels to agree to it as long as I did, and we negotiated on a contract to go over there. And I went over for 2 years contract that I signed with Hanshin Tigers. I really just wanted a 1-year contract because I didn't know what it was going to be like. Honestly, I had no idea how hard it was going to be or what it was going to be like. So I figured a 1 year would be the smart move. They really pushed and wanted a 2-year contract. So that's what we did. I got over there, and honestly, you think baseball's baseball, but it is completely different over there. Base paths are still 90 feet apart. Everything's dimensions are still the same. Just the way they go about their business. You have 5-10 meetings a day just to go over the scouting report of the other team, and that's not exaggerating. You give 110% in practice, and whatever you have leftovers for the game. I've literally seen guys that would go 3 for 4, 4 for 4 the night before, not look great during batting practice, and the manager just be like, I don't think he's ready for today's game, and not start him. Just so that's why I say you got to give 110% during practice. So that aspect of it, obviously the language barrier was difficult. We had interpreters, so that was made it easy. And some of the guys spoke English, enough English, and I learned enough Japanese that we could get by. But the fans, no better fans in the world. Unbelievable how great Japanese fans are. They love baseball. They absolutely love baseball over there. The fans are incredible. You could have a horrible game and they don't care. They're still cheering you on. They're just happy that you're there and performing for their team.
Now, like you said, how much of the language did you have to learn? Because I know you had to. I know the catcher, you had to at least have some kind of communication with the catcher. What was that like? Like when they had to come to did they bring out a translator? Did you have to speak their language? How'd you have to communicate with the catcher, especially when they were coming out to talk to you on the mound?
Sure. So anytime they had a mound meeting or a meeting with the pitching coach or manager and the catcher, they had an interpreter that would come out and be there for you, and that was fine. I was very fortunate. Both teams I played on in Japan, the catchers spoke enough English that we could figure it out. And baseball terminology, they can speak that. So, and then being there for 4 years, and like I said, I was not kidding. You would have 5-10 meetings to go over stuff. Probably somewhere about my third year, I would start trying to tell my interpreter what they were saying during the meetings, just to see how accurate I was. And after a while, I was getting pretty good, and so I could understand enough. And being a starting pitcher over there, so you have a 6-man rotation. You play 6 days a week, right? So every Monday, depending on if you're in the Central or the Pacific League, you had one day off a week, and ours was Monday. So if you're the Saturday starter, you pitched every Saturday.
Right.
So I would try, if we had a game on a Friday and I was pitching on Saturday in Nagoya, they would put me on the bullet train down there and I'd go by myself. So I had to figure out how to do it and how to get from the bullet train to the hotel and out to eat and everything. So, it became easier. You're there for 4 years. Hopefully you absorb some of it.
Yeah, you're right. Exactly. Now, any players that you played for in those 4 years or against, are they still currently in the majors or are they out of the majors? Who came over from the States when you played in those 4 years there?
Oh gosh. Well, I played with Doug Creek, who's no longer playing. Nobody that I really know is playing anymore. I played with quite a few Dominican players over there when I was with the Giants. We had a couple of Dominican guys on our team. Desi Wilson was another guy I played with the Hanshin Tigers. Trying to think who else was there. Bobby Rhodes played for Yakult. Nobody that, obviously when I came back and played in the States, ironically, I played against Matsui, I played with Matsui, and then I played against him in the States, and then I played with him in the States. So I got to play with Matsui, some of those guys. It was fun to see when I came back, see some of those guys come over from Japan.
So obviously, when you said you played before you left the Braves, they sent you, like you said, down to Venezuela. How different is it playing in Venezuela compared to those two areas that you played for, mainly Japan and back in the U.S.? How different is it over there with your stint that you had in Venezuela?
Venezuela, it's very competitive, very, very competitive. They're playing to go to the Caribbean World Series. They're, every game is a big game. So that is their baseball season for them. So it's very important, to where my understanding going down there as a Braves, like, hey, we want you to go down here and this is what we want you to work on. We feel like, your changeup and fastball are good. We need you to develop a breaking ball. So that's what we want you working on while you're down there. But you get down there and you want to work on that. But at the same time, you're trying to help this team win because they want to go to the Caribbean World Series. And
right.
They incentivize it. They pay you well. So you want to do that.
Who ultimately made that call, though? Was it you, or did they pay the team off to pay you to go there? How did that whole process go? Why'd you have? I know you said you had to go there to make a curveball or whatever to add to your pitching repertoire, but who ultimately makes that decision? Is it you in the end?
Most teams have some type of working agreement with different organizations. We had one in Venezuela. We had one in Dominican. When I say we, I'm talking about the Braves back then.
Right.
And then Australia was the big one. We had a working agreement with a club in Australia, and that's where I was really trying to push. I wanted them to send me to Australia. That was more of a vacation down there. Yeah. You only play 3 days a week, and you got 4 days to kind of screw around. So yeah. I wanted to do that, but they sent me to Venezuela. So it was awesome. Baseball. I got to travel the world playing baseball, so it's been great.
A lot of good MLB players that come from Aussie. Grant Balfour is one.
Yeah.
Roland Smith, another one.
Yeah.
And I think I just recently interviewed another one. He was a pitcher I can't think of his name right now, but he was another good one too. But yeah, you're right. A lot of good players that come out of where you have played. I mean, think of the ones that when you were in Venezuela, how many came out of there? Also, Japan.
Yeah.
Now, speaking of Japan again, out of those 4 years, did you have how was their playoff series compared to here? Did you get to play in any of the playoffs over there?
I
Did you have
did. We won the Japan World Series my first year with the Tokyo Giants. It was awesome. It was a fun year. Gosh, great year. Playoffs over there. So backtrack a little bit. You play in a lot of domes over there because they have a lot of summer typhoons,
right,
a lot of
yeah,
summer rains.
right,
And but there's some teams like the Hiroshima Carp, the Henshin Tigers. They have natural stadiums, outdoor stadiums, natural grass, and the infields are all dirt over there. So if it's an outdoor stadium, it's all dirt infield. That took some getting used to, and then outfield grass. So they would have a lot of rainout games, and over in the States, you would make out the rainout games with a doubleheader. In Japan, you don't play a doubleheader. They leave a 2-week period from the end of the season until they start the playoffs for the Japan World Series. Those 2 weeks are to make up the rainout games. It doesn't matter if you have a chance of going to the playoffs or not. Every team makes up all their playoff games.
right.
So you've got to wait until all the teams have made up their playoff games. So playing for the Tokyo Giants, we were in a dome. We didn't have any rainout games. Even we got lucky. I think we might have had 1 or 2 on the road that year. So we only had a couple of games to make up. And we had 2 weeks to just kind of sit around and do nothing. And so they didn't want us to get flat. So they sent us back to our spring training site. And we practiced for a couple of weeks before we started the Japan series.
Now, I got to ask you a opinion on your opinion question. How well do you think you did over there? Because you spent 4 years over there and then you spent the rest over here. How well do you think you did as a career in both leagues? Do you think you did there better than you did here? How well do you think you did?
Yeah, I mean, numbers wise, I definitely did better over there. I had a really good year. My first year with the Tokyo Giants, made the All-Star team, got to start the All-Star game. That was really cool. Pitched the first and the last game of the Japan World Series. So that's kind of hard to beat. My series here was my career here was kind of up and down. I would have good outings, bad outings, and when my bad outings, they were bad. My numbers were not great. There's no two ways about it. I think my best year was 03 with the Royals. I potentially had a chance to win 17, 18 games. I had opportunities. We had come out of the game with the lead and we'd end up losing it. It was, rough time with a team that we did really well up until July, till the All-Star break, and then kind of fizzled after that, unfortunately.
Now, like you said, you spent 3 years with the Kansas City Royals, an up-and-coming team. You had a who's who, Johnny Damon, Carlos Beltran, all those young guys. What do you think happened with that core? Did you guys just not have the pitching? Because you guys certainly had the hitting. Jermaine Dye, I think, was coming into that, I think, last year or something, 04 or something, I think. I'm not sure. But you guys had a who's who names hitting.
No, so Damon was already gone and Jermaine Dye was already gone.
Beltran, they were already gone? Okay.
Beltran and Sweeney were the two big ones that were there. And then Joe Randa, who was there for a long time. Would have been the three, and then it was a lot of younger guys after that. In middle infield, Angel Baroa, who was very, very young, and then when they brought Neffy Perez in, I think from Colorado at one point, and then we had a lot of young pitchers.
That's probably why it explains why you guys couldn't get anywhere, because you guys had, like I said, you guys had the hitting. It was just a young pitching that probably get you guys in. Because believe it or not, I think, didn't you have a young Zach Greinke at that time? A young?
Yep. One of my last years there, Zach came in 19 years old, I think he was.
And now he's back with them.
Yeah. Crazy.
Yeah, crazy.
Come full circle.
So obviously you spent the most time there out of all your US teams. What was that experience like? I know you were the veteran coming in, so did you take any of the young pitchers underneath your wing? Did you teach them anything?
Yeah. So the funny thing about Zach is he came in and this young kid and they kind of said, hey, help him out here as far as what to do, how to dress on the road trips. Zach literally would try to uh, leave the clubhouse on the road in a pair of cargo shorts, t-shirt, and flip-flops. And we had a little more of a dress code. Every team does it different. The Braves, we definitely, it was slacks and a collared shirt on the road trips everywhere.
Right.
Royals were a little different, but that was not allowed. And here I am trying to tell him that, and he just kind of looked at me like, yeah, okay. And then the next day he would be in flip-flops and shorts again. And he's like, but I'm sure he's a little better than that now. At least I hope so.
Oh yeah, of course. So, how would you rank your time there amongst the other teams you were? Did you have a lot more? Would you say you had a lot more fun than your other stops in the U.S.? Like, because you spent the most time there, you got to see a lot of good teammates, a lot of funny teammates as well. So, would you say you spent the better time there in Kansas City than you did any other U.S. stops?
I enjoyed every year, every opportunity I had at the big leagues. I think the Royals was a little harder in the sense because we had a couple of rough years, 162 games, and when you're losing or close to losing 100 games,
Yeah,
that's
that was horrible. Yeah,
that makes for a long year. It's extremely hot in August. In September in Kansas City, and if you're not winning or playing well, it even feels even hotter. So those times were a little tough, but you do what you got to do, and you keep one foot after another, forward progress with it, and we had fun. We definitely had fun. Even though it was tough, we had Tony Muser as a manager. He got fired. Then we had Tony Pena as a manager, and he got fired. So that's never fun when you go through things like that. When there's not the consistency you would want.
Now, how loyal was the fan base in those losing seasons? Because I believe they weren't as good as the other teams, obviously. Because
No.
I'm here in the when they were the Devil Rays, and I'm still here in Florida now
Yeah.
that they're the Rays, and they still don't get a fan base even now that they're winning. So
Yeah.
I'm sure when you were there, the fans weren't loyal at all, were they? I'm sure they didn't come out
No. It's tough, and I mean, honestly, I kind of get it, but I'll never forget my first year with the team. I'd hurt myself out of spring training. I'd pulled my groin,
Mm-hmm.
and but I'm still with the team and doing rehab. And they're announcing opening day at home, and they're announcing us we're going out on the field. And then the name they announced right before me, they announced, everybody's cheering for everybody. And they announced the name of the guy before me, and all of a sudden they're booing. I'm like, what the heck's going on? So we get back in the dugout afterwards. I'm like, what was that all about? It's like, oh yeah, he pitched the last game of the season, gave up a home run that I think either gave them 100 losing season or something like that. And so the fans still remembered that from last year. It's like, oh my gosh, this is going to be a rough place to be. And nobody wants to root for a team that it's got to be frustrating when you're losing all the time. So I kind of get it, but when things started turning that 03 season, when we started off really well, and fans were coming out and they were respectful and cheering, and everything was good. And it ebbs and flows though.
So then, after the year after, you play for my Padres, and they've been since the Tony Gwynn days. I will always be a Padre fan,
Nice.
instead of a Ray fan. Go figure, right? And I'm here in Florida. But you spend the year there with the Padres in 05. What was that experience like? Because you just transferred over to stadiums a couple years prior. I know you weren't there, but Petco Park was fairly new, going over from Qualcomm. So what was your tenure there like in San Diego? Because you got to play with guys that were somewhat still veterans, still in the league, but on their way out. So what was your tenure like there in San Diego for that year that you stayed?
I loved it there. It was too short, unfortunately. I got traded to the Yankees, but um, I'm a West Coast kid. My wife's from the West Coast, so we love being back on the West Coast. Can't beat the weather. It's San Diego. I mean, come on, you can't beat the weather. It's fabulous. It's a great environment. Coming up in the Braves organization, it was, I wouldn't say strict, but there was definite rules, and it wasn't laid back. You get out to California, San Diego, it's more laid back, it's more relaxed. That's kind of the atmosphere of the club, But come game time, you take care of business. Great organization. I really enjoyed being there. I was crushed when I got traded on twofold. First, my getting traded out of there, and then secondly, my wife was almost 9 months pregnant, getting ready to have a baby. So it's like, oh my gosh, we just had everything set on what we're going to do, and now all of a sudden, I've got to just up and leave her to figure out what to do.
Now, while you're there in your short time there, did you ever get to meet Mr. Padre, Tony Gwynn? I know you obviously played against him.
Sure, yeah.
Did you ever get to meet him?
Times. He came out a few times. He was I think he's coaching college, so I didn't get to see him a whole lot, but we did get to see him a few times when he was around.
And what was Trevor Hoffman like, a fellow pitcher? Because you were a starter, he was the closer, another Mr. Padre. I know they didn't call him that, but he's
sure.
In my book, he's still another Mr. Padre and always will be. What was he like with the pitchers?
Trevor is awesome. He's a guy that is a leader by example. He is a true leader. I mean, the guy doesn't just take his talent for granted. He worked extremely hard, motivated all of us to work hard and work harder. Can't say enough nice things about him. Really enjoyed my time knowing him and getting to kind of pick his brain about pitching. It just baffled me that here's a guy that is a closer and his best pitch is a changeup. Not a whole lot of guys could do that, but once you see it, you understand why. It's absolutely filthy, and his mentality and work ethic is second to none.
Now, that little time you spent in San Diego, then, like you said, you get traded to I hate this team, the rival Yankees for the Rays. Yeah. You get traded to them, and you get to play under Steinbrenner. What? How bad was it playing under him? Because he had strict rules more than any other team in the majors. I'd say more than anybody in the majors. Now the Suns have gone loosey with it as of now, but what was he like in your tenure there? Did you ever get to meet him while you were there? Your short little time there?
Yeah. Ironically, I did. So I got traded. And I'm coming into the clubhouse, and they just started where players had to carry these IDs, to get into stadiums. Before you just walk in and say, "Hey, I'm a player," and pretty much let you in. And I'm there with my Padres ID, and the guard kind of looks at me, and he looks at me, he goes, "Oh, awesome! Welcome to the team. Hey, if you wait a minute, you can meet your new boss." And he kind of points over my shoulder and turn around, and he's walking up. Steinbrenner's walking up, so got to meet him right away, and then went down to the clubhouse. And it was a strict organization, but I wouldn't say it was any worse than, and I don't even think it was bad than the Braves organization. It was just there were expectations, and I think expectations are good. When I was with the Braves, there was no facial hair. Your uniform was tucked in. You had to show, 3 inches of stirrup back when you wore stirrups. So those things, they didn't bother me. So going over to the Yankees, that didn't bother me at all either.
Now let's talk about the team while you were there. You had Mariano. You played with Hideki. You played with Jeter, obviously. You played with let's see, who else I want to say. Bernie Williams, Jorge Posada, who's who of names over there. And talk about leadership. What were they like in the locker room? Because you shared it with them as a pitcher. You even a veteran yourself. I mean, on your way out as a veteran, I mean, the leadership was incredible in that clubhouse. How was the leadership how you viewed it?
you have when you have a clubhouse that's full of veterans. Everybody kind of seems like they do their own thing. Everybody knows what to do. They've been here before. So you just kind of take care of your own business. And that's really the way it was. It was very professional in there. I think with Matsui there, you had a ton of Japanese media, and then it's the Yankees. So you had a bunch of normal, regular media there. So guys were very professional. There was a lot of media around all the time. Posada was a good leader, obviously being one of the catchers on the team. Was a leader on the team, but everybody kind of just did their own thing and be loose, in the clubhouse. But as soon as it was close to game time or close to batting practice, get ready and it's business as usual.
How was pitching in Yankee Stadium?
Oh, first time as a visitor, I was nerve-wracking. First time as a Yankee in pinstripes, that was even worse. It happened to be Old Timers Day, so they bring back all the old Yankee greats, and they have like a softball game or whatever on the field beforehand. Right. And it's a day game before our game, and that was a game I got. And they're having that game. It's going on, and I'm in the locker room, just kicking back, getting ready, getting myself mentally focused, and Jorge Posada comes in from batting, and him and I are going to go over, the lineup and our game plan. And we're sitting there, and his locker happened to be right next to mine, and all of a sudden I feel a shoulder or somebody putting their hand on my shoulder, and I kind of look up over my shoulder. It's like, you guys mind if I sit in? And like my eyes just go big. It's Whitey Ford, I'm like, Whitey Ford's here, wants to sit in our meeting. I'm like, awesome. I can't. I'm having a hard time focusing now. And then here comes Yogi Berra coming. All these old Yankee greats because they're done with their game.
Right.
Coming in the locker room and right. It was pretty surreal and pretty cool to see. But yeah, first outing in Yankee Stadium as a Yankee. So we were playing Cleveland Indians, and Grady Sizemore was leading off, and I think I struck him out on a 1-2 pitch. And I've heard a crowd roar before. I played in Japan in these domes where there's 50,000 people, and it's so loud you can't hear yourself think. But there was something about hearing Yankee fans yell after that, and like the hair on my neck rose when I struck him out and just heard that crowd. And then I had to recenter and get focused again and keep going. But yeah, it's pretty cool. It's a pretty cool stadium. I'm glad I got to pitch in the old stadium.
Now, obviously, that ended up being your final stint with the majors, and then you obviously retired. Did you know then and there that year was going to be your year to retire and put up the cleats? Did you know it was going to be that?
No, yes and no. I was heading in that direction, I believe, but I didn't know I was ready to. The next season, I went to spring training with the Twins. I had an opportunity to sign with the Astros or with the Twins, and I chose the Twins. Kind of crushed me because I grew up a huge Astros fan, and I really, really wanted that opportunity. But my numbers in the Metrodome are really good, so I thought that was going to be the best opportunity for me. Mm-hmm. And in spring training, they had a young left-handed pitcher that they didn't think was ready to be in the big leagues.
Johan
ended up going crazy. Had an incredible spring training, and so they ended up taking him and releasing me, and rightfully so. It was his job without a doubt.
Am I thinking of the right one? Johan Santana, is that it?
No, Santana was already there. It was Liriano.
Oh, Liriano.
So then I signed on with the Reds, and when I signed on with the Reds, I had in my contract, I'm like, if you don't call me up, they send me to AAA. If you don't call me up by June 1st, then you have to release me. And it was somewhere in there in that minor league season early on. We had a few days off, and I went home to see my family. And mind you, my wife was pregnant the year before, so we just had a baby. My youngest was 8 or 9 months old, and I went to pick her up, and she kind of shunned away from me because she didn't recognize me. She didn't know who I was because I hadn't been around.
Right.
And at that point, I just kind of my heart fell, and I was like, if I don't get called up in June,
Yeah.
home is where I'm ready to be. I want to watch my kids grow up. So it was an easy choice and one that I don't regret at all.
I don't blame you. I got 2 of my own, so I don't blame you. I don't blame you on that one. So now I got to ask you about your rookie year. It's a 2-part question. I know every team, it's a baseball religion for some odd reason. I don't know why, but the veterans always make the rookies do something. What did they do to you guys as rookies? What did they make you do as rookies?
There's multiple things. There's not just one thing. With the Braves, they didn't do it to everybody, but they would pick one person and make them wear some kind of funny outfit on a road trip. Fortunately, that was not me. But they had we'd have like team breakfast before or lunch before a day game, and rookies had to be there and serve for that. That was one of the things. And then there's always, it's kind of gotten worse over the years, but it used to be just like a little small duffel bag full of the sunflower seeds and snacks and whatnot that you would take to the bullpen that the bullpen guy would have to take out. Now it's like, you see teams where they make guys wear a Barbie backpack or something like that. So I didn't experience it there, but when I got to the Angels, even though I'd already been through it, and I didn't think I was a rookie. They classified me as a rookie. And with the Angels on our road trip, we actually come into play in Arlington. After the game in Anaheim, you go into your locker, you got your suit in there to go shower, go put on. They took all our suits, packed them up, and put on like 70s go-go dancer outfits. So we had to wear those 70 go-go dancer outfits. Not only did we have to wear them, but we had to hurry up and get dressed and go out to the front of the stadium where all the fans were, and the bus would come around and pick us up. So we had to go out and pose with photos with the fans and sign autographs. And then on the plane ride, we had to serve the players. And then we had an off day the next day, so they had a team party. There was a sports bar at the place where we were playing. And all the rookies had to do stuff like, be waitresses. And if a player requested a song, you had to go karaoke a song. So, yeah, I mean, typical stuff, right?
Typical. Now, I saw you were a coach. Are you still coaching to this day or no?
I am. I'm coaching at a private high school in Austin, Texas, St. Michael's Catholic Academy. And my second year as head coach, I've been here for 5-6 years now, I think.
Perfect. What have you told your kids? What have you? Because I always ask this at the end of the interview, but I might as well ask you now since you are coaching. What do you tell your kids to get them motivated to get to where you were at in the majors? Because that's ultimately where they want to go. Well, the majority of them, I don't know about some of your kids, but the majority of them want to go to the big leagues like you did. What do you tell them?
That there's no shortcuts. Honestly, I think, everybody's looking for the quick, easy way, but there is no shortcuts. It's hard work. It's discipline. It's sacrifice. And it is sacrifice early on. There's a lot of sacrifice, but if you really want it, then it doesn't feel like that. And those guys that want it, they separate themselves from the people that don't want to work as hard. They weed themselves out, those that don't work as hard. So, you see the motivation in guys and you kind of try to give them a little, not extra, but, little tidbits that you can to maybe help progress them a little faster.
Now, obviously, you had about 450 strikeouts in your career. 2-part question: what hitter did you have the most success with, and what hitter hit you the most?
Oh gosh, that is such a good question. I remember at one point after I was retired, I was sitting at home watching a game and it came over ESPN. Alex Rodriguez had struck out against some left-handed pitcher, and then his next at bat coming up, it was a question as who has the best who has pitched the best left-handed pitcher with a certain amount of times facing him, pitched the best against him, and it happened to be me. And I knew I had good numbers against A-Rod. I faced him a lot when he was with Texas and then with the Yankees. But I kind of like that one. I was never a fan of his, so
right.
I was happy that was me. Guy that just owned me pretty much the whole league, but no. Honestly, God, I can't remember his name now. Second baseman for Minnesota Twins, like Rivera, maybe. He was probably a 250, 260 hitter, but for whatever reason, it must have looked like I was throwing beach balls to him because he absolutely owned me. I could go through their 3, 4, 5 hole hitters, no problem. But you get to him, and I had no idea. I might as well just throw it down the middle. It's like facing Tony Gwynn. Just throw it down the middle and let him decide.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, right. There you go. So obviously you had to work on a curveball from like you told me earlier. So what was your pitching repertoire and what was your go-to pitch, would you say, to get most hitters out?
So I was a left-handed pitcher that didn't throw extremely hard, but I was a fastball changeup guy mostly. I had a good slider. My curveball was my worst pitch, but I think I was sneaky in the sense that I always had a lot of hitters tell me, like, you only throw 88, 87, but it looks a lot harder than that. And I think that was primarily because I wasn't afraid to pitch in. I knew I had to pitch in, or these guys just sit out over the plate on me. So I would come in on hitters a lot more than I think traditional lefties do.
Yeah, because I know how it is. Even though I didn't pitch, I still throw it, and I have a natural. We have a natural. What is it? What's the word I'm
Tail.
Yeah, tail on our fastball. Yeah, that's it. When you're throwing it to 2-seam, 4-seam, whatever, has that natural spin to it. So I know how it is. I'm a fellow lefty myself. So
there you go.
Now I gotta ask you. We had the Olympics a couple years back. I think it was 2 years ago. I think it was. I know it's a city by city basis. Do you see the Olympics keeping baseball, or do you think it's going to still be continued based on what city or whatever country does baseball? Do you think that's how the Olympics is going to go from now on? Because I was happy when they brought back baseball, and softball.
I was too. I can't imagine. Why wouldn't they want it? It's not just a sport, an American sport. I mean, it's obviously Japan, Dominican, Puerto Rico, Venezuela, South America. It's all over, Australia. So, but I get it. The hosting country, if they don't have baseball, they don't have baseball facilities. They don't have all the stuff that's needed. But I don't know. I think it's popular enough. I think that's what it comes down to, and I don't understand why it wouldn't be popular enough. What was it? I just heard the other day their cheerleading is going to become a Olympic sport.
Yep.
So if they're going to make that Olympic sport, please keep baseball Olympic sport.
I agree.
Nothing against cheerleaders. Nothing against cheerleaders.
Oh, I know. I agree with you as well. I got to talk to you about the Hall of Fame. Obviously, unfortunately, I know you're going to be brutally honest with me anyhow. You're not going to be in the Hall of Fame. But is there a player that you think, or players that you can name that you played against or played for that should be in the Hall of Fame that are Hall of Fame snubs, like a Don Mattingly, et cetera, or whatever? Name some players that you think are snubbed from the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, well, since you went there, I mean, Don Mattingly, hard-nosed player, and it's not just you got to look at more than just numbers, and that's what kills me is you got to look at the guy being a team player, what he does for the team in and around the dugout, the locker room, if he's a leader. All those are attributes that I think need to be looked at. And that's where, personally, I think that it should be taken away from the writers and given to the peers of the players
Right.
to make that voting. If they want to make some type of committee to do that, whatever. But that's who should be voting on it, because those are the guys that know, that have been there, that have done that.
Now, obviously, you pitched in the steroid era, unfortunately, and unfortunately, that's what our era will be considered as, is steroid era, which I'm going to
Yeah.
eat. But unfortunately, it is. You think those guys should be in the Hall of Fame ultimately?
Nope, I don't think any one of them should. That's just my personal thing. I get it. Yes, steroids still. You have to take a round ball with a round bat and hit it square. But I think you're cheating, and you knew you were cheating. You can't tell me somebody was taking it and didn't know what they were doing. It helps you focus better. It helps you, gets you stronger regardless. Even take a guy like Andy Pettit, who said that, he was just doing it so that he could get back to help his team. And he admitted it right away and it was forgiven. I get that, but he also kept somebody from having the opportunity to get a chance to play in the big leagues.
Yeah.
So there's two sides to it. So, those that weren't cheating, those that never got an opportunity because the guy in front of them was doing it. So that's my take on it. But, I'm obviously, you look at me, I didn't do steroids. So maybe it would have helped me. Maybe I would have got to play longer, but I sleep well at night knowing I didn't.
Now, do you think the criteria for pitchers is fair for the Hall of Fame? Because I don't think so. What do you think needs to be fixed on the criteria for pitchers to be in the Hall of Fame?
Other than, well, record, win, loss, strikeouts, complete games. I mean, all that stuff. Is that what you're talking about? What kind of criteria? Yeah.
Because it seems like there's starting pitchers still out there that you played for and against, and even ones before your time are still not in the Hall of Fame. That should be.
Yeah, I mean, I think you look at just individual stats, which is, to me, that's what they're looking at. But you got to look at, even if a guy didn't have great numbers in a particular year or few years, what did he do to help his team? Did his team make it further in the playoffs? If he wouldn't have been there, would the team have done as well? I think those are things that could easily be looked at to add to it. But it's always going to be based off numbers. It just is. It's because that's the easy thing to look at.
Now, do you think if you would have stayed in the game a year or two later instead of retiring in 05, do you think you could have possibly made it into the WBC with a team?
Oh, I doubt it. I was what?
I believe the first year was 07, right? I believe the first year of it.
Yeah, I mean,
07.
it's typically younger people or younger players. So, I was older and on my way out at that time. So, 34, boy, that's really old. But in baseball life, it is. So, yeah, I doubt that would have ever happened.
So, lastly, before I let you go, I asked the question to everybody. I'm not going to ask the other one because I already asked you when we got into coaching, since you're still coaching. But my question to you is, I asked this to everybody: define your career in one word. What would you define your career as?
In one word, define my career.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh, that is an interesting topic. I don't know that I could define it in one word, really. One word that would come to mind. Let's see. Well, it's not one word, but well-traveled.
There you go.
You
can say that.
I was all over the map. I played for a bunch of organizations. Got to travel the world playing the game. So I always had my suitcase handy because I wasn't in one city for too long, it seemed.
Exactly. I couldn't have said any better. Well, I thank you for your time. I appreciate it. I'll send you this episode so you can share it as
Perfect.
well. I'll stay in touch with you from here on because I'm sure I'll want to talk to you during the season. So we'll stay in touch. But it was fun. And also, like I said, it still stands. If you know anybody, please send them their information. Send me their information. I'm always looking for more interviews. So I'd definitely appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. No problem. Just curious, how did you come across my information? I was curious about that.
I just went through Twitter. I was just
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Awesome.
Yep. Oh, and Instagram too. So that helps too.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm glad we connected anyway, though. I mean, this was fun.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right.
Well, hey, thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem. I'll send you the episode. All right.
Okay.
Take care. All right. Have a good night.
You too.
All right. Bye.